Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output, and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
We're in Wave Media.
Welcome back to Cable Box Theater. I'm Father Malone, and with me, as always, is HP. HP, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is another one of these things that's been a long time coming. It's feel like a lot has been leading up to this point, talking about this particular piece of art.
Here on Cable Box Theater, we look at 1970s, early 80s cable networks when they were putting on any content that they could grab a hold of. In this case, we look at theatrical productions, Broadway productions. This technically counts, not Broadway. This one aired originally on September the 11th, 1981. Never forget.
It's terrible.
This is Pee Wee's Playhouse. No, not Pee Wee's Playhouse. This is the Pee Wee Herman Show.
Look at this face. It belongs to the genius behind a comedy concept that's quite special.
What's so special about it?
As I was saying, it's a revolutionary comedy idea. A kids' show for grown-ups. Really brilliant.
Really, monsieur?
Starring Mr. Pee Wee Herman, whom you've already met, and featuring a stellar cast, including Captain Carl.
Captain Carl, did you remember to wash your hands?
No! Miss Yvonne and Mailman Mike, Messrs. Clocky and LaCroix, the Jelly Donuts.
What happened to our hibachi?
To name but a few, who under the guidance of Mr. Herman mold elements of dance, drama, pathos, yes, even tragedy.
Gosh, give me a break.
And a great deal of weird stuff into a zany and inventive comedy event the likes of which you've never seen. Ergo, I strongly urge you to watch the Pee Wee Herman Show. Okay?
Okay.
You've made this point several times over these episodes that these cable companies were desperate for content, right? They needed more and more. So that's why we got the opportunity to see some of these great productions. And even though I knew with this particular show that there was something really adult about it, to be honest, the adult content at the time was so far over my head. Even now watching it, I'm like, oh, I missed an awful lot with this.
This is a production of the Groundlings originally. Paul Reubens, Phil Hartman, John Paragon, Lynne Marie Stewart, John Moody, all members of the Groundlings. Let's talk improv groups for a second, shall we? Groundlings founded in 1974 by Gary Austin, who was a member of the Committee. He was a member of the LA version of San Francisco's group, the Committee. And when he ended up leaving them, he started his own improv group at the Comedy Store, which eventually morphed into his own sort of group that got bigger and bigger. And then in 1974, officially the Groundlings were formed. So that's an improv group. They were putting on improv shows for 6 years there. In 1980, they decided that they would start spinning off their more popular characters into their own productions and see how they did. So they started on Saturdays, they would have a midnight show using their most popular character as their inaugural side production. That was the Pee Wee Herman Show, created by Paul Reubens, starring Paul Reubens.
So Pee Wee Herman was originally a character that grew out of improv in the ground. I never knew that.
Absolutely. Most of those characters were from the original Groundling improv classes or improv shows.
Pee Wee Herman is another one of these characters for me that felt like he was always around. Ever since I can remember, there's been a Pee Wee Herman. It was either Pee Wee's Big Adventure, this show. It's like part of the firmament. So it's amazing to even think that there was an origin to this character, like that there was a before Pee Wee Herman and an after Pee Wee Herman. It's cool.
Yeah, and Paul Reubens, as a groundling, was showing up in productions all around Los Angeles at the time. If you go back and watch The Gong Show, you'll see plenty of groundlings show up on The Gong Show as a made-up act, including Paul Reubens. He was doing a variation of his tequila dance, where he was dancing on his toes the entire time with another performer from the Groundlings. He showed up in Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams at one point. He's like a crazy inmate. You hear about those girls, they're dipping in wax at the Wax Museum. And of course, he's a waiter in the Blues Brothers.
True. And he was also in a movie called Midnight Madness. He was basically an arcade attendant. It was don't blink and you'll miss it.
That's right, with the gun with all the quarters, and he presses the button and it shoots 1,000 quarters onto the floor.
Yeah, but no, I mean, what can you say? Paul Reubens is Pee Wee Herman.
Indeed, he is. And this is, in fact, that show was wildly popular. No surprise, that midnight show. So they moved it to the Roxy Theater, where it became its own kind of a thing. That's where the folks at HBO caught wind of it, and they decided to film it and put it on the air. And thank God they did. And like you said, I can't imagine a time where I didn't know Pee Wee Herman. Obviously, we did before 1981. But I saw this. I watched it incessantly. It was on all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is completely meant for adults. This is an entire show predicated on boomer nostalgia, basically. It's all sort of 1950s, 1960s nostalgia in the form of a children's television show. It is, in fact, the show we would eventually get on the air on CBS as Pee Wee's Playhouse, effectively.
But one of the more remarkable things about Paul Reubens in this production itself is that you're right. This was really for adults, but they sold the kid stuff so well. And it's so well realized as a production that this really felt like any number of children's shows like Mr. Rogers or Captain Kangaroo. And the fact is, we were children watching this. I wasn't fazed in the least. I suspected there was more to it than that, but I was perfectly happy to enjoy it on the basis of a children's show as it was.
I cannot agree with you more. I responded to this first and foremost as a show for children, just like Captain Kangaroo, this is meant to ape in a way, just like Romper Room, just like Sesame Street, just like all of them. And at the same time, we knew this was for adults. We knew these were jokes that we weren't getting because they were laughing when it made no sense to our young minds.
There's a lot of sexual stuff going on that I only later really figured out. Like at one point, he and Hammy's sister comes over and they have mirrors on their feet and they're trying to look under her dress, which I got it on some level as a kid, but I didn't really understand what they were doing. There's a lot of sexual stuff, a lot of, in retrospect, kind of hinky stuff going on too, which we'll get to.
I
but
got
a lot more.
In that particular joke, Pee Wee's friend Hammy comes over and he wants to borrow a comic book, and then his sister joins them. And as she's arriving, they say shoe mirrors so that they can see her underpants. And so they have mirrors on the tops of their shoes so they can look up under her skirt. And when she arrives and they start doing it, she says, joke's on you, I'm not wearing underpants. At which point they lose all interest because they just wanted to see the underwear, right? And as like an 8-year-old boy, I totally understood that. That didn't seem sexual to me in any way.
That is innocent. You're right. the aesthetic is so perfect. And even with some of the weird, you know, sexual stuff or adult stuff, let's call it, because it's not all about sex. A lot of it is. There's this core of sweetness to the character and to the fact that he has this world, these characters that they all love each other and they have adventures together and they all interact. I think that's what I responded to more than anything, that this is a really fun world that we're presented with, that people are happy, they're doing things for each other. I don't know. It was just the sweetness is really what I think is the secret sauce to this whole thing.
One thing I want to point out about this is the production design of it, because this would become the aesthetic for eventually Pee-wee's Big Adventure in a way, and then Pee-wee's Playhouse after it. And I said that this is effectively like a nostalgia trip for boomers, but this is a nostalgia trip for all of the counterculture people from that generation. This is the obsession with tiki culture and all the lowlights of American culture. Basically, just any sort of kitschy, retro-y kind of idea. I swear to God, the look of this production, it was way too formative in my brain, HP.
I agree. There was something about this rewatching it now. The thing that came to mind, especially with Miss Yvonne and her whole aesthetic, is I kept thinking of the B-52s and their retro sort of punky aesthetic. And I have to believe that there was some cross-pollination there. Like they took inspiration. I think the B-52s are obviously earlier, but I think that whole that vibe, that sort of, like I said, retro, kitschy, big beehive hair, 50s coloring and aesthetic, that all really worked for me too.
It's that weird period as the 50s were transitioning into the 60s, like right before everything culturally exploded and things started looking differently and a little more ramshackle. But this was the ramshackle part of the shiny part of the 50s. This is all of the stuff that was a bit embarrassing by the 1980s.
Yeah, in a sense, they're ahead of the curve because these things are very cyclical and these things tend to come back. But at this point in 1980, this was all, like you said, a little bit embarrassing, I think, to admit that this was the aesthetic. But I don't know, there's something cool about it and the way it's all shown and the way it's shot and the color, everything. Like I said, everything really worked for me in that sense. And it doesn't feel now, looking back, it's come all the way back around. It no longer looks dated. It just looks uniquely, the aesthetic is uniquely Pee-wee now to me. I know all the components that comprise it, but to me, that still feels like Pee Wee Herman.
The 80s was a lot of picking over the bones of what they had concentrated here. And once all of those advertisements and videos and all of those other things have fallen away, the aesthetic belongs to Pee Wee. We can't really talk about Pee Wee Herman without talking about his co-writers. And let's start with the obvious one and the one that I absolutely fucking adore, which is Mr. Phil Hartman, who also is a performer in this as Captain Carl.
This would have been our first exposure to Phil Hartman. At some point, like I saw this, and then obviously later I became a fan of Phil Hartman through Saturday Night Live. So it was a shock when I eventually connected those dots. Wow, that's Phil Hartman. That's the glue. He was in the Pee Wee Herman Show. That's crazy. But my God, like there's nothing the man couldn't do. Nothing.
I was laser focused on Phil Hartman from this moment. He was basically like Aykroyd to me. I remember sitting in the theater at the end of Pee-wee's Big Adventure when the reporters are all surrounding Francis going, Captain Carl, he's right there. And then looking for his name in the credits and going, Phil Hartman. And then remembering that one of the credited writers was Phil Hartman. So I was always stoked to see Phil Hartman. So when he ended up on SNL, oh my God, it was heaven. And then have him be as good as he was, as frequently as he was.
He's foundational for that era of SNL. Obviously, that was his nickname, was the glue, right? He was the one who held all those there's too many good moments to even think of when you think of Phil Hartman on SNL. But it's just something. There was something so fascinating to me because, like I said, I only really knew him through SNL, but then to connect the dots back to 1981, the Pee Wee Herman Show, Groundlings, it really made it feel like a small comedy universe that all of these people were interacting in. It didn't seem like such a big, it just, I don't know, it's just it's a small world ultimately. And that's the fact that he could be in a shared universe, the Pee Wee Herman universe and the SNL universe was really, it blew my mind actually.
If you walked into any improv group in 1980 in Los Angeles or Chicago, you were going to see the fucking giants of comedy for the next 20, 30 years.
It's insane. As a side note, I told you I watched that show about the Dana Carvey, the documentary on the Dana Carvey show, and you've seen it a bunch of times.
Too
but
funny.
That was the same thing. Colbert was Steve Carell's understudy. It's insane. Like these are incredible timers for comedy. And I don't know, just the fact that they were there at that time in that place in that same shared space, it's fascinating. I wonder how many does this still go on? Are these clubs still around? Are the Groundlings still a thing?
Yeah, of course. Groundlings is still in Los Angeles. I don't know if Improv Olympics is still there. There was an Improv Olympics West last time I was there. They still had UCB when I was there, although I don't know if that theater closed after the pandemic. A lot of improv groups closed down after the pandemic, but you're not going to close the Groundlings. They're still, SNL is still pulling people from there. Mikey Day was a Groundling. Heidi Gardner.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
Mikey Day has been around for a deceptively long time. He just looks he's baby faced, so you don't think of it, but that guy's been around forever.
dude, in those first early days of YouTube where they had that guy doing David Blaine's street magic and he would go up to a sign and then take the hand down and the sign, it would go from red to green. He wrote those.
It's crazy. He used to do
2006.
There was a show on MTV, the Nick Cannon show, Wild and Out.
Yeah.
He was in the repertory for that show. He must have been super young, but that's got to be like early 2000s. I guess I think UCB is over. I think they did close. I think I read that somewhere. But it just, what you're saying makes me think, like, how are there any other prospective comedy giants just waiting to be discovered at these clubs?
Just as a list of people who came out of there, but not only Phil Hartman came out of there, but Jan Hooks was also one of them. Anna Gasteyer came out of there. Will Forte came out of there. Will Ferrell came out of there. Rachel Dratch came out of there. They're a machine of comedy greatness.
They are. But I also think nowadays it's easier with social media and things like that to get your comedy out there. I think that's what Lonely Island, that's what they started. They just put their stuff up on, you don't have to be discovered at a club anymore. You can just put your stuff out there on TikTok or any of these places.
So I would suggest, if you want to be versatile as a comedian and a sketch performer, maybe some improv training would do you some good.
Without a doubt.
Phil Hartman as Captain Carl. Can I just say, he comes on screen and immediately makes a joke that makes me laugh every time I watch this special. And I watch this special a lot. I watch this special at least once a year, honestly, where he comes out of the bathroom and Pee Wee says, "Did you wash your hands?" And he grabs Pee Wee immediately by the face and goes, "No!" I laugh every time. I'm going to laugh about it now. That's so fucking funny. The other thing I love about this opening scene is they do this silly little joke about wash your hands. Right? It's the follow-up to this, where Phil Hartman does this sort of sailor dance, and he's so fucking athletic. He just reminded me of Gene Kelly. I wished he had done more physical stuff.
Oh, a sailor travels to many lands, any place he pleases, and he always remembers to wash his hands so he don't get no diseases.
He's very graceful. I agree when they do that little dance about the sailors, and not to get ahead of ourselves, but as part of what we were doing here, I watched the 2011 filming of Pee Wee Herman on Broadway, I think. And I got to say, obviously it's Phil Hartman has been gone for a long time. So I wasn't expecting to see Captain Carl, but seeing Cowboy Curtis, I wasn't so much into the Pee Wee's Playhouse thing. I didn't really watch the show. So I have to say it was a little bit disappointing not to see Captain Carl up there, because all the same jokes are in this sort of revival, right? Even the one you just talked about where he says, "Did you wash your hands?" No, it doesn't land the same way with Phil LaMarr. Love Phil LaMarr, but not quite the same as Hartman.
I'll say this because I saw the production you're talking about live at the Nokia Theater in Los Angeles. And because it is effectively the show we are talking about, the Pee Wee Herman Show from 1981, just repurposed with some updated jokes and some other segments, that at the moment that Captain Carl was supposed to come through the door and Cowboy Curtis came in, it broke my heart a bit. But Phil LaMarr is really good as Cowboy Curtis. And once you settle into him as Cowboy Curtis and then Cowboy Curtis in the Captain Carl role, then it became fine. And then I enjoyed the rest of it.
Yeah, I no disrespect to Phil LaMarr, he's awesome. I thought he does as good a Cowboy Curtis as anybody could expect, because Larry Fishburne ain't going to come back to do Cowboy Curtis.
I don't think he would have then, but I don't know why he wouldn't, like, on screen. He can't do it now, obviously, but
right. But it was just so, Hartman is so noticeable in his absence that I wanted to accept Cowboy Curtis and Phil LaMarr, but it just, for me, it was really hard to get past it because it's so iconic. I mean, I don't watch the original HBO show that often, not as often as you. This might have been the first time I've seen it in over 10 years. But it's burned at the same time, it's burned into my brain. I saw it so much as a kid. It was on so much that I could quote it just from memory. So to me, it's Captain Carl sitting down with Pee Wee talking about the seashell and all that kind of stuff. I miss that. And
you know that Gilbert Gottfried was chosen over Paul Reubens for the cast of Saturday Night Live when Gene Domanian took over?
I knew Gilbert was in the cast. I didn't know it was between him and Paul Reubens.
That's when he came up with the idea to do Pee Wee Herman as a stage show on its own.
I'd say it worked out pretty well for Paul Reubens.
He was going to be a huge star anyway.
Amazing character.
My favorite character here in the original Pee Wee Herman Show, and again when I saw it live, Mailman.
Mike is great, isn't he? He's so, like, when you really break the character down, he's such a prick. He's opening people's mail, right?
Okay, first of all, he comes in, he opens the post office and then says, "Well, looks like it's time for my first break," and then leaves.
He eats the cookies that aren't addressed to him. He gives Pee Wee his mail and he's like, "Hey, Mailman Mike, why is this open?" And he goes, "Sometimes I forget." And he licks the envelope and gives it back to him.
Turn that frown upside down, Pee Wee. Got some special mail here for you.
What's so special about it?
Well, what's so special is that it's mail from foreign lands. And you know what that means, don't you?
Yes, I do.
That means it's time for Pen Pals from around the world. Here's a picture postcard from Finland.
From Finland. Dear Pee Wee, brr, it's sure cold here. Today, an avalanche covered our village.
Here's a letter from Israel.
From Israel. Shalom, Pee Wee. My name is Shalomo. I'm 9 and I have been in the army 2 years already. Hey, listen to this, Mailman Mike. If you would like to know more about my country, just read the Bible.
Oh my God, he's the worst, but he's so cheery and just so upbeat. I love Mailman Mike.
It's really funny.
I also love his partner.
Terry?
No, not Terry. Terry is Captain Carl's part. No, Mailman Mike's partner is the Gator, also played by Phil Hartman. And not that we get a scene with them, but I really wish we did get a scene with the two of them together. We only learn it because he's rigged the dating game so Miss Yvonne falls in love with Mailman.
Yes. I do prefer Terry. There's something about the line readings that Terry makes in the show that it's just really funny when he's talking to Pee Wee about how he can't fly, and he says, "Man, that's a bummer." There's something about the way he says that.
It's the one character that has stepped outside of the show. It's the hipster character who's commenting on everything. Yeah, that's a trip, Pee Wee.
Yeah, I just flew from the ship, and boy, are my wings tired.
Gosh, it must be cool to fly.
You mean you can't fly, Pee Wee?
No, I can't fly. I'm a human being. I can't fly.
Oh, bummer.
That is it. That's the crux of it right there. But obviously, I think for me as a kid, my favorite character, and maybe this isn't a surprise, is Jambi.
I'm getting a signal from the spirit world. Help me get into a trance quickly, in Jambies. Mecca lecca hi, Mecca chani ho.
Mecca lecca hi, Mecca chunny ho.
Mecca lecca hi, Mecca hiney ho.
Mecca lecca hi, Mecca honey ho.
A mole lecca hey, Mecca chani no ni na.
Mole ke, mole flay, la 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 la.
Because what kid isn't like completely enraptured by essentially a genie, a mystical, a force inside of this box that can grant wishes. He's got the weird face paint. He's funny. He can do magic. I don't know. I love Jambi.
I was always confused as a child because I could see that they were doing video effects, but I also knew that this was a live performance. So I was like, what are the people seeing in the theater?
That's true, because at one point they do this. It's almost like they pan out on his face, so it recedes into the background of the box. But yeah, you're right. What do the people in the theater see when that happens?
I'll tell you, nothing. They just see him do his lights go down. That's all. Or they put a different colored light on him. There's a moment where between Captain Carl and Pee Wee where Pee Wee wants to light Captain Carl's pipe, and then he gets sick, and so they do this bizarro kind of music, and the picture gets all wobbly and gaseous, and all that happens on stage is they shine a green light on Pee Wee.
That makes sense. But I always wondered, like, is how much of this is just filmed live, and how much of it maybe are little pickups where they can do video effects. And
that's a good question. I think a couple of the Jambi things might have been pickups because they suddenly cut to a way too close up, which they would probably have to be on stage to get.
Yeah, you met the actor who played Jambi.
John Paragon. He is an unsung giant because he worked on fucking everything. He co-wrote this show. He co-wrote Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He was the breather on Elvira. He wrote all the Elvira TV shows. He's in Eating Raoul just as an actor. He's really good in that. I know he worked with Imagineering for a while. Anyway, yeah, back in, I don't know, this has got to be like 2015, 2011. I don't, before he died, obviously. My late wife, Jessica, and I used to attend what is now called the LA Comic-Con, used to be called Stan Lee's Kamikaze. Okay. And it took place at the LA Convention Center, which is the sort of big one downtown. And they, of course, have an entire floor that is nothing but autographs from famous people, and they're just sitting there and you can just walk up to them and they're usually selling something or whatever. And we were pretty early and it was pretty sparsely populated at that point, but standing or sitting at a table by himself just scrolling on his phone was John Paragon. And Jessica and I were standing there and I'm trying to tell her quietly, that's John Paragon. She's like, who? And I'm like, that's John Paragon. And she said, who? And as soon as I said, it's Jambi, I heard, Mecca lecca hi, Mecca hiney ho, which was John Paragon calling us over to the table. And then he was very gracious and very sweet and talked to us forever about Pee Wee and about the movie. And I just adored getting to talk to him because he's such a fucking legend, man. And he passed, and where's his memorial?
Seriously, he's such an unsung giant of comedy, but I would freak out because Jambi was a mystical force as far as I was concerned. To see him up there in 1981 doing all of those things, granting wishes, casting, he's so funny and so cool. I don't know. I would have freaked out, I think, if I ever met. That's an awesome.
What's great about seeing him first as Jambi is that he's always Jambi now. No matter where he was in his career, high or low, he's Jambi. He's still a god.
Was it the same event? I remember Jessica had a picture of her with Thomas Lennon from Reno 9/11.
No, that was San Diego Comic-Con proper.
I always thought that was a great picture.
Because he fucking grabs her and kisses her, because she said before she snapped the picture, don't grab me or kiss me or anything. My husband is really jealous. And then he grabbed her and kissed her and said, take it now.
Good stuff. But yeah, no, there's something about being an impressionable kid and watching all of this stuff, the bright colors, everyone's just having fun. I love that. I love that vibe watching this.
Since we're talking about characters and groundlings and fucking comedic geniuses, we just lost one yesterday, the day before, Miss Lynne Marie Stewart, who is Miss Yvonne, the most beautiful girl in all of Puppet Land. She has been around and in everything forever. She is in Pee-wee's Big Adventure at near the end of the movie on the Warner Brothers lot, where they're filming the movie with Jason Hervey as the kid getting the bike, and then Pee-wee comes in and steals it. And Jason Hervey is a real prick right before the bike stealing takes place, and the director has to step in, and the nun is like,
I don't have to take that, Jerry, especially from that little
kid. He is just a kid, Marion.
Even a kid can be courteous, Jerry. I'm going to quit.
Please,
I
Marion.
swear it, I am going to quit.
Pleading.
All right, Jerry. Okay, but I have had it.
That is Lynne Marie Stewart, and she's fucking hilarious there. That is another joke from this group of people that makes me laugh every time I see it.
She's amazing. She was always Miss Yvonne in every production, every iteration of the character on the TV show, and the revival on this original, always there. And it's my understanding that she was pretty close with Paul Reubens. I'm sure that they remained close throughout his life, and she's gone too.
What? She's fucking great here. Not only that line in the fucking Pee-wee's Big Adventure movie, but the moment here where she fears that Captain Carl is out on a date with another girl. She's putting on her makeup.
Was the captain here today?
Yeah, but he had to go. He had a date.
A date? I mean... A date? Pee-wee, are you sure?
No, it wasn't a date. He had an engagement.
She's pretty? She's prettier than me?
You don't understand, Miss Yvonne. Captain Carl had a fishing engagement. He's probably just out at the pier fishing, that's all.
Is that all? Thank you, lucky stars.
To me, that's her scene. That is the key to that character. Putting on the blush, and she's getting more and more frantic and upset by the whole thing. It's great. And I don't know. She's so sweet and light and effervescent as the character. She's just such a breath of fresh air. She was wonderful.
Why this works so well and why we bought it as children is no one here is pretending this isn't a children's show. No one here is winking and letting any, if there is like sexual, like, okay, there is with the hypnotist thing with another ground.
Yeah. We need to talk about that. But
all right, let's talk about it now. Let's just get it out of the way. Because this thing is, it's not like there's a huge plot. Pee-wee wants to fly, and Jambi's going to grant that wish. But Miss Yvonne wants Captain Carl to love her, so he's going to give her the wish. That's the plot in there. It was the plot in the revival. And anyway.
This was the only thing that I found concerning now, looking back, like watching it as an adult in 2025, because I'd forgotten about this and the aftermath, let's say. So the conceit is there's a part in the show where Pee-wee wants to hypnotize a member of the audience. He goes and it's obviously, the woman's name is Joan. She's obviously an actress. She's a plant. And he takes her, she's one of the Groundlings, right? She goes up on stage, and Pee-wee proceeds to comedically hypnotize her. But what he does is he basically just tells her, he suggests hypnotically that it's hot, which basically forces her to take off her dress. So she's up there in, I guess, in this case, it's a negligee.
Let's just say, by the way, that Pee-wee is hypnotizing her with a puppet called Dr. which I assume is from the early 1960s, late 1950s, and he was a hypnotist doll. So this whole thing is predicated on a toy that everyone in that audience at least knows about.
The toy probably looks like a little handheld version of Dr. Evil from Austin Powers. It's a bald, stern-looking character, right?
So I get what you're saying, because this is rapey and weird, right?
Yeah.
He's having her take off her clothes and then using the puppet to look up her dress and everything, right? But I think this is just a comment on what every kid was thinking they were going to do with this doll when they got it. They were going to hypnotize girls into taking off their clothes. Not that it makes it okay.
That's a charitable view of the thing. And again, I'm not going to be one of these people who says, oh, this is terrible, that they should cut it out. I'm not suggesting, I mean, it is what it is. It's 1981. This is what passed for comedy. And I'm not going to whitewash it or forget that it was there. But what was particularly disturbing about this, and I don't think I ever even saw this as a kid, because this is effectively a post-credit sequence at the end of the show. We've gone through all the credits. Everybody say goodbye. You then follow that, because what Pee Wee has suggested to her when she's under hypnosis is that she's not going to remember that she doesn't have her dress on, and that's going to be effectively how this is going to go. So then at the end, while they're going through the credits, you focus on the character. She looks so confused, almost zombie-like. The camera follows her still in her undergarments as she goes outside, bewildered, into the city, into Los Angeles, I guess. And there's something disturbing about that. She doesn't seem to know what's going on. She seems in a fog about the whole thing. See, that's what I found a bit disturbing. But here, I'm sure you had a different take on this, Father Malone.
I loved it, man. What are you talking about? I thought it was great that this hypnotized person would remain hypnotized after the show, just go wandering home naked.
I just found it grim because there's no joke. It's just this woman who doesn't seem to know where she is or what she's doing, stumbling out of the theater into the nighttime. I don't know. I found it a little bit eyebrow raised.
Yeah, but it's ultimately, we were watching this as kids, but it was not meant for. This is a midnight show at the Groundlings Theater on Saturday nights.
Sure. And to be, like I said, I don't think I ever even stuck around to see this little postscript because, as a kid, I'm not going to sit there and watch the credits. I didn't really care. I probably just flipped the channel. So that was surprising to see it now, because this might have been the first time I ever saw that sequence. Did you mention that where people can see the Pee Wee Herman Show?
You can see it on HBO Max or Max right now. It's on demand.
Or you can see it on YouTube for free.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. You can see everything for free on YouTube. Can you see the 2011 Broadway revival?
I don't think you can see that. I think that's locked up with a lot more rights and things like that. I don't think
what you can see is Paragon of Comedy, John Paragon's comedy special from 1983 featuring Pee Wee Herman and Elvira.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Check that out.
You should check it out. John Moody is in it as well. And Miss Yvonne, Lynne Marie Stewart, and Joan.
Can we talk about another character in this production that I guess I didn't appreciate fully until I was an adult? The Mr. and Mrs. Jelly Donut.
Oh my God. Thank God you brought them up, because I agree. Did not appreciate them as a child and enjoyed them, but fucking love them right now.
I didn't get the joke of them performing Sly Stone's greatest hits, like these two white people basically up there. He's got a flamingo guitar, an electric guitar. But
by the way, he has a flamingo guitar and he's wearing black pants and he has pink stripes down the front. So when he's holding the guitar, it looks like the fucking flamingo is standing there.
I didn't notice that. That's hilarious. In retrospect, though, what was interesting for me is this was literally my first exposure to the music of Sly Stone. I may have had some vague understanding of some of the big hits like Dance to the Music, but it's just so fucking funny to see them come out there and do Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again. Essentially they're at a cookout and they get zapped into Pee Wee's house to do this musical spotlight tribute. I thought it was great.
Oh, fucking fantastic. I again, didn't appreciate how funny this whole thing was and did not appreciate how formative it was because, like you said, I was predisposed to love Sly and the Family Stone after exposure here.
And Pee Wee is doing the backing vocals and he's chiming in, and it's really funny the things that he's piping in and doing. The whole thing. I don't know how you conceive of those characters in this context. It is so fucking funny.
Mr. and Mrs. Jelly Donut. This, and then as they're leaving, by the way, they pass Captain Carl, who just starts like, "Get out of my way!" Music. Blah, blah. We eventually got a Pee Wee's Playhouse, but I wish it was peopled a little bit more with the original residents of Puppet Land, because these people are great.
I was surprised that they didn't make an appearance in the revival. I was hoping to, because I thought, what are they going to spotlight this time? Will it be some other weird band from the 60s? But no, that's the one feature that I was sorely lacking.
Yeah, but I guess as kids, we could dispense with this. And then when they revived it, they thought, well, did anyone actually respond to it? Yes, we did, Pee Wee.
It was so offbeat. I don't know. It's hard to really pin down exactly why I find it so compelling, or back then found it compelling, but it was, and it made an impression.
You know what else made an impression? The Pincushion Man, the scourge of Balloon Land.
Folks all hate me. How they hate me. Tickles me the way they rate me. Always have a pin at hand. That's the reason I am panned. How I stop 'em when I pop 'em.
Those cartoons are whack.
So that cartoon would reappear 2 years later in Get Crazy. It's the cartoon that they show to the audience to calm them down in between acts.
Oh, so it must have been like royalty free. Yeah, public domain. Yeah. The thing I was reminded of, you won't necessarily make the same association, but it reminded me of the cartoons that play throughout the movie Skinamarink that the kids are watching, these awful, like you said, public domain cartoons that are just looping endless. For some reason, I think of that when I think of these cartoons. But yeah, it's crazy. I used to wonder as a kid, like, because there's that, and then there's the public service thing about Mr. Bungle.
Yeah, there's an educational film. It's called Beginning Responsibility, Lunchroom Manners. But is the story of Mr. Bungle eventually giving us that fucking stupid band's name?
Yeah, I'm not a fan either.
A boy ran past their table. You shouldn't run in the lunchroom. Only Mr. Bungle would do that.
But what I used to wonder as a child is, are these actual authentic movies from the 50s and cartoons from the 50s? Or is this something that in their brilliance they could produce? Because people are laughing throughout all of this, especially the Mr. Bungle thing. Like, they're just having a great old time with it. But I guess these are the genuine article, right?
I believe the Pincushion Man is probably from the 40s. Just from the animation style, I would say that's probably the 1940s. But that is definitely from 1959, an educational film that was shown to students, probably these very people. Like I said, it is like a sort of a nostalgic trip through all of the worst or the lowest aspects of culture from the late 50s, early 60s.
It's simply brilliant. The way this all is packaged as this sort of variety show starring this, at the time, a crazy character of Pee Wee Herman. It's brilliant. These are real serious comedy minds. Like, I don't even know how you begin to come up with a show like that. All the facets.
You got people like Edie McClurg willing to come in and do 3 lines and then run out.
That's right. She was people would know her, Grace from Ferris Bueller. They think he's a righteous dude.
Yeah, and she's also she manning the rental car desk in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You're fucked.
That's true. Her character was Hermit Hattie.
Oh, yeah. She's also the voice of Clocky.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that either. Wow. Well, she must have been a groundling too, huh?
Absolutely she was. Who else was a groundling? Tito La Riva. We mentioned Hammy earlier. Tito La Riva is an interesting motherfucker.
That was the biggest shock, and I talked to you about this when I was starting to watch this, because Hammy is a fairly incidental character in this. He shows up at the beginning. They do the bit with the shoe mirrors, and that's pretty much it. But when I looked him up, to find out that this is the same Tito from the band Tito and Tarantula, I think is how you pronounce it properly. This is basically, for a while, this was Robert Rodriguez, the filmmaker, his house band, right? He did the music for Desperado.
They're in
I'm
from
sure
dusk till dawn. They're the band.
that's true. He is in Desperado. I think he's in the scene where Buscemi comes and lays out the legend of the mariachi. I think he's in the bar too.
By the way, he eventually got to Tito and Tarantula, but at this time he was in the Plugs, which is a fucking seminal LA punk band.
No kidding. The Plugs, really?
He's the vocalist for the Plugs.
I didn't know that. I'm learning a lot today, Father Malone.
This is the episode you've been waiting for.
I'm telling you, like I said, it was a long time coming. But what's the connection there? Like you said, he was a groundling, La Riva?
At one point in the 70s, the Groundlings had something like 90 members.
I just never would have made the connection to this sort of confederate of Robert Rodriguez to connect him back to the Groundling.
He went to Yale. Oh, I'm sorry. Tito La Riva snuck into Yale for a full term and was eventually kicked out.
Tell me that guy's written a book. Tell me he's written a memoir.
I don't know. We got to get in touch with him. What a fucking interesting human.
Wow. Yeah, totally. It's weird. Again, it's a small fucking world to think that he was in this.
Yeah, for one scene when he's so goofy, he really committed to playing a 9-year-old boy.
Yeah, him in the band, because I watched a few performances, Tito and Tarantula, and they're a pretty heavy, bluesy, aggressive band. And Hammy is anything but. Hammy is just this kid that kind of pokes his head into the playhouse and then leaves. I don't know. It's funny.
And laughs with his mouth full. Makes me want to punch him in the face.
He's always got that ham sandwich. That's why they call him Hammy.
It's basically his whole life.
That's true. Marty Callner, some of his stuff was going to leave it out.
Marty Callner, was he the puppet guy? No, that's a different guy. I'm thinking of.
Might be, but he did direct both the show and the revival, which I thought was interesting. And he was like a big stand-up director. He did like specials for Red Fox and George Carlin and Robin Williams, but he really made a real name for himself in music videos. He did We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sister. That was Marty Callner. He did videos for Hall & Oates, Pat Benatar.
Oh,
interesting.
That makes sense then why Twisted Sister showed up in Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
Everything connects.
God dang it. We're solving everything, H.
We need one of those boards with the yarn, the threads that go, okay, he's connected here, but he worked here. It all connects. It's crazy.
Mr. Knucklehead, by the way, is the name of that gator that Phil Hartman played. He's my second favorite character in the show, and turns out he's Mailman Mike's partner. The Gator Mater. Oh, please, would you wait till I finish the question, please?
I did love Mailman. You're right, though. You're right on the money with Mailman, though. That guy is.
I think we're basically at the end here where Pee Wee gets his wish because he wishes for them to be in love, but they were already in love, so he's going to get his wish anyway. In one of the greatest visual effects of all time, Pee Wee Herman flies.
In the original show, the effect is great because he's not even wearing the same outfit that he's worn through the whole show. Like they put him in something different. It's essentially a harness that his head fits through that makes it look like he's flying.
The tiny little body hanging
tiny
up.
Little body, big head. Yeah.
And he's got little arms on sticks in front of him that he's manipulating. And in an all black environment, it looks like big-headed person flying around the room.
But he deploys those arms like several times very effectively. Like at one point, like the lyric goes, "I'm so much luckier than you." And he's pointed the fake arm to like the camera. It's really funny. But it's sweet though. Like the fact that he does get his wish. He is a boy who can fly. That's effectively the end of the show. It's beautiful. Sweet.
They released a vinyl record of this, anyone?
Like an audio version or the songs from
a vinyl one-sided hand silkscreen picture disc.
I would love to check that out. That was a big thing for a while. Audio, like there was a record of Johnny Carson's greatest hits, which was just basically bits from his. It's not totally surprising, but I'd love to see.
Here are the track listings. Pee Wee's Playhouse, The Good Morning Song, A Sailor's Life, Most Beautiful Woman in Puppetland, Ballad of Hermit Hattie, Rub the Top of Jambi's Box, I Gotta Go Be By Myself, Call Me Mr. Bungle, He's Gonna Get His Wish, Luckiest Boy in the World, and then Volare Pee Wee.
Let's try to track this fucking record down. Pee Wee Herman, originally released in one vinyl 12-inch. It's short. It's only 12 minutes.
The songs are only a minute long. They're just basically transitions.
It does feature Mr.
HP, what have we learned?
Here's one of the things I've learned, Father Malone, is that we've done a few shows now about live productions that are broadcast on cable TV, and we've beat up on a lot of them. This is the rare case where I think this is such a good, the material is great, the production is great, the direction is spot on. This is an example of one of these productions done, I think, this live production on cable TV, and this exposed the character, no pun intended, of Pee Wee Herman to so many more people than might have actually run across. He would have been a star regardless, let's be honest, but this certainly primed the pump for many people, including myself, who would not have heard of him otherwise until Pee Wee's Big Adventure. I think this was a resounding success as far as cable box theater is concerned.
Absolutely. Paul Reubens was going to be a big star, not necessarily Pee Wee Herman. If this thing hadn't aired on HBO, I don't think we were going to get Pee Wee's Big Adventure or Pee Wee's Playhouse or Pee Wee anything. We were just going to get Paul Reubens' character actor. Oh, that guy, I love him. He shows up on such and such sometimes. That's what it would have been. So this is the perfect example of the power behind the cable box theater. This led to all those other things. And this was what they should have been doing anyway, which is don't go to fucking Kokomo Joe's house to watch the fucking Wait Until Dark. Like, why are we filming that with that thing that's already a movie? Go find the underground shit that's going on in every major metropolitan city and film that.
It really felt, I mean, in retrospect now, watching adult, if I had seen this as an adult for the first time, it would have felt like, I don't know, this cool sort of, to your point, underground show that, I don't know, it really captured the live experience, I think, of watching, not that I've seen the show live, but watching it, it felt like you were part of this experience, and it felt really special. And that's a quality that it's not easy to capture on a videotaped live performance, but by God, they did it.
Kudos to everyone involved. My God, if Pee Wee Herman from those movies and that TV show and the recent Netflix movies and whatever, and have never seen this, what the hell are you waiting for? It's free. It's available right now. My God, it's Pee Wee Herman. Here's where it all came from.
What can I say? This was a pleasure. Watching this, rediscovering this after so long.
All right. Well, I don't know what our next episode's going to be about, but it's going to be not as good as this one, at least for us.
It's going to suffer by comparison for sure.
We'll be feeling the pain after such elation.
Yeah, but you know what? You can't appreciate the good if you can't delve into the bad.
That is true. But until we do get there, HP, where can people find you if they're looking?
You can find me elsewhere on the weird. I co-host the Night Mr. Walters Taxi podcast with my esteemed co-host, Father Malone. I host the Noise Junkies podcast. That's a music podcast. I am also an occasional guest on the Culture Cast with Chris Dasher. And I have a Bandcamp site for those interested. That's hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. I just released a new album called Wired and Waiting for fans of 80s synth, unreleased movie soundtracks, stuff that sounds like old Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. You've come to the right place. Check it out. So that's where I'm at.
I'd say they're a step above Jean movies.
I try.
I think that music is good. I don't think Jean-Claude Van Damme movies are. As for me, where to find me, I'm right here. If you want to follow me on socials, at Father Malone on all of them, really. Until next time, thank you for joining us at Cable Box Theater. I don't have a sign-off still, HB. That'll do it.
Yeah! Where do I go when I want to go? When I want to do what I want? Pee Wee's Playhouse, that's the place for me, man. Show me a way to get away when I want to get my way. Pee Wee's Playhouse, that's the place I'll be. Pee Wee Herman, what a snazzy guy. Pee Wee Herman makes all those young chicks cry. Hey! Whoa!
with Pee Wee. Aha! Pee Wee! Talking about my man Pee. Pee Wee! Up key! I'm talking about my man Pee. Talking about my man Pee. Pee Wee!
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.